What if I told you the loudest betrayal doesn't always come with screaming? Sometimes it arrives quietly and stays with you because of that. If you've ever walked into a moment you can't unsee, you already know what this feels like. The bathroom door was half open. Steam drifted into the hallway, slow and careless, like it didn't know it was giving something away. I pushed the door gently and stopped. They were there, my sister, my fiancé, too close, too relaxed, laughing. For one brief second, my mind tried to protect me. It told me I was tired, that I was misunderstanding something ordinary, but my body knew the truth before my thoughts caught up. He turned first. The shock on his face said everything my heart didn't want to hear. My sister didn't even pretend to be ashamed, just annoyed, like I'd interrupted something inconvenient. That's when the noise disappeared. No shouting, no crashing realization. Just silence. I stepped back, pulled my bathroom door shut and locked it. The click echoed down the hallway. Inside, voices rose immediately. Wait, listen, it's not what you think. But it was exactly what it looked like. I leaned against the wall, not because I was breaking, but because I refused to give them what they expected. Anger would give them control. Tears would invite excuses. I wasn't giving them either. I walked into the living room and sat down. Behind the locked door, their whispers sharpened. Blame started moving quickly between them. Interesting. Even trapped together, they were already choosing themselves. My phone buzzed on the table. Wedding reminders, guest confirmations. Our names paired everywhere like a promise that suddenly felt naive. And something unexpected happened. I didn't feel heartbreak. I felt clarity. The small things I'd ignored, late replies, changed passwords, my sister showing up unannounced, quietly rearranged themselves into one clear picture. This hadn't started tonight. Tonight was just the moment it stopped hiding. The banging on the door grew louder. My fiancé shouted my name. Panic had entered his voice. Good. Panic reveals truth faster than arguments ever do. Standing there in the quiet, I understood something that changed everything. If I reacted emotionally, I would lose. They would cry, explain, confuse the story until it bent in their favor. So instead, I chose something else. I chose time. I didn't unlock the door, but what I did next started unraveling their plan. And they had no idea it was already happening. Time doesn't calm situations, it exposes them. I didn't rush back to the door. I didn't answer the shouting. I stood where I could hear clearly and waited. Silence has a shape if you let it form. Behind the locked door, the yelling thinned. Then stopped. What replaced it wasn't peace. It was calculation. Their voices dropped, urgent now. Why did you let her see? You said she wasn't coming back early. This is your fault. That told me everything. This wasn't an accident. It was a routine that had been interrupted. I took out my phone, not to text, not to record, not to react. I opened a blank note, not messages, not social media. A list, wedding venue, deposit under my name. Guest list, mostly my contacts. Shared savings, joint access. Apartment lease, both signatures, but I'd handled the paperwork. I wasn't spiraling, I was auditing. Everything they assumed was shared suddenly wasn't. The knocking started again. Softer this time, different tone. Please, my fiancé said, just talk to me. That was the shift from panic to fear. Talking is what people ask for when they want forgiveness. I wasn't offering that. I spoke once, steady and clear. Stay there. I need time to think. No accusations, no debate, just a boundary. Then I picked up my keys and walked out the front door. The house felt lighter immediately, like a future had quietly expired. I locked the door behind me and stepped into the cool air. My phone lit up instantly. Calls, messages, apologies stacking too fast to be honest. This isn't what it looks like. Please come back. Open the door. I turned the phone face down. Distance matters, not emotionally, but strategically. I parked 2 streets away where the house wasn't visible anymore. From there, the pattern was obvious enough to plan around. This hadn't started tonight. Tonight was just when it lost control. I opened my notes again and added a new heading. Next steps. Not revenge, not confrontation, preparation. Because here's what time really gives you, something they never expected you to take. Options, and once that starts, it doesn't stop quietly or quickly. While they were still rehearsing explanations behind a locked door, the first domino had already fallen. And the next one wasn't mine to push. The moment you step away, systems don't pause, they activate. By morning, while they were still inside the house, arguing and adjusting their story, I was already dealing with people who didn't care about emotions. Systems don't. I opened my laptop and logged into the wedding portal. No build-up, just credentials and confirmation screens. Venue cancellation submitted. Deposit, refundable pending review. Guest notifications, scheduled. That word, pending, mattered. Systems don't answer immediately. They open windows, and windows close. Next was the bank joint account. 2 names, one action that didn't escalate. I froze it, not closed, not drained, just frozen. A notice appeared. Review window initiated. Temporary restriction applied. Freezing doesn't look aggressive, it looks responsible. And it creates a pause they can't talk their way out of. My phone buzzed. Not apologies, confusion. Why can't I access the account? We need to talk. Then the lease. I sent a short, documented email requesting my name be removed. The reply came quickly, subject to verification. Conditions. I sent confirmation. That was when something irreversible began. Because systems don't respond to apologies, they respond to paperwork. By afternoon, the tone shifted. Urgency turned into accusation. You're overreacting. This is extreme. Vendor confirmations started arriving, refunds pending, calendar entries disappearing. Each notification closed something they still assumed was open. That evening, my sister called, careful, controlled. We can fix this. Fix assumes reversibility. I already did it, I said. Silence. Because when systems move, they don't ask for permission. And by the time they noticed, one option on their side was already gone, for good. The first confirmation didn't arrive loudly. It arrived as a timestamp. Venue cancellation, approved, deposit, released. No warning, no discussion. Just a finalized notice sitting in my inbox like a sealed envelope. That was the moment the future they were still arguing about officially stopped existing. I stared at the screen longer than I expected to. Not because I doubted the choice, but because I felt the cost of it. Relief didn't come first. Finality did. A few minutes later, my phone rang again. Not my fiancé, not my sister, the wedding planner. Her voice was professional, careful. We've processed the cancellation, she said. I just wanted to confirm there's no intention to reschedule under a different arrangement. That question mattered, because it was the last open door. No, I said, there isn't. There was a pause, a soft one. The kind people leave when they know something important just ended. Understood, she replied. Then we'll proceed. After that, things started locking into place. Calendar holds disappeared, vendor threads closed. Shared access quietly revoked. Each notification removed something they still assumed was intact. That afternoon, my fiancé showed up at the hotel. Not angry, not pleading, deflated. He stood there like someone who'd missed a deadline he didn't realize was real. We can still fix this, he said. Nothing's final. I didn't argue. I opened my email and turned the screen toward him. He read it once, then again. And something in his posture collapsed, not dramatically, just permanently. You already ended it, he said. Yes, I replied. Before it ended me. He nodded slowly. There was nothing left to negotiate. When he left, I sat alone for a while. This was the cost I hadn't avoided, grief without chaos, loss without noise. A future I'd built, now gone because I chose clarity over comfort. But as quiet settled in, so did something else. Stability. What they didn't realize was that while one door had closed for them, another was about to open for me, and they would be the last to hear about it. Nothing dramatic happened after that, and that was the point. There was no public fallout, no explosive confrontation, no moment where someone suddenly understood everything they'd done. Life didn't pause to acknowledge the decision. It just moved on without them. The days that followed were quieter than I expected. Not empty, just uncluttered. No messages waiting to be answered. No explanations to prepare. No vigilance required. The systems were done moving. What remained was mine to rebuild. I noticed small things first. Sleeping through the night. Making plans without checking anyone else's schedule. saying no without rehearsing it in my head. Stability returned before happiness did. And that was enough. People assume closure feels like relief. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it feels like standing in a cleared room after everything unnecessary has been removed. The space looks unfamiliar at first, but it's usable again. I didn't miss them the way I thought I would. I missed the version of myself that had tried to make it work. And I let her go too. Weeks later, I heard pieces of their story secondhand. Confusion, frustration. The question everyone asks when consequences arrive late. How did this happen so fast? It hadn't been fast. It had been quiet and intentional. Clarity doesn't shout. It doesn't demand witnesses. It just changes what you're willing to accept and what you're no longer willing to carry. I didn't win anything. I didn't need to. I chose clarity over comfort, and that choice held.